Hi, I'm Jennie Taylor Martin, a director here at Edgar Cayce's A.R.E, and today I'm speaking with gemstone expert and author Shelley Kaehr about her book, Edgar Cayce's Sacred Stones. Hi, Shelley. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Jenny. Thanks for having me.
So tell me about your background in gemstones. How did you become an expert and become involved in gemstones?
Well, it's really, it was how I was raised, so it's really more of a lifestyle for me. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my dad was managing the company that manufactures a lot of the Native American style jewelry back in the 70s, and then he ended up getting a job working as the manager of the Kingman and Bisbee turquoise mines in Arizona. So as a child, we were just always out, you know, camping and hiking and collecting rocks and things. So it's just something that I grew up with. But when I teach my classes, I always talk about the fact that, you know, we're all around minerals and things. I especially was, but I don't think we always know why we're drawn to them or their healing purpose. And that information really didn't, let's just say, come into my awareness until I was an adult, when I met a shaman who taught me about just laying the stones on and how they can start to make an energetic impact on people.
Wow. So how did you find out about what Edgar Cayce had to say about gemstones?
Well, I'd always been a fan of the Edgar Cayce material, as we all are, of course. And let's see, back many, many years ago, I'm a past life regression therapist, and I wrote a book about past life therapy, and I'm really good friends with Dr. Raymond Moody, and him and I used to go around the country together. And I was in Alabama taking one of his training courses when I met somebody from the A.R.E, Autumn Marie, who was a dear friend, and she and I became friends. She sent me a copy of this book called Edgar Cayce on Gems and Stones. It was written, or published, I should say, in 1964.
Wow.
And so I go out to Tucson Gem and Mineral Show every year. I live in Dallas, Texas, so I kind of drive my car across the desert. It's like kind of like a spiritual pilgrimage that I make every year. And I thought, you know, I'm going to take this little book, because when I looked at it, I thought, wow, there's some really interesting materials in here that I've never really worked with before. So I took it to the show, and I went on this scavenger hunt through the Gem and Mineral Show that time, just trying to pick up some of these things. And as I was driving back across the desert, something just came to me, and I said, you know what? Maybe I should contact the Edgar Cayce Association and just see if they need to redo this book, because it was put out in 1964. So I call Ada on the phone, and she said that literally a couple of days before I called her, they were in the publishing room having a meeting, and somebody held up the book and said, "Can we please get somebody to update this book?" And so it was just like divine order. I mean, I feel like the luckiest person alive that I've had the chance to do this. It was so awesome.
Yeah, now when did that book come out? That was over 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was the first one. It was called Edgar Cayce's Guide to Gemstones, Minerals, Metals, and More. And it came out in 2005 from A.R.E. Press.
Okay.
And so that one was really, that one is more focused on like the elements in the periodic table. Cayce recommended a lot of different elements and the gemstones that we can use to experience those elements in healing. And so that one, I guess what I found so interesting when I did the first book was the fact that, you know, when the one was put out in 1964, as you know, like we didn't have internet. We didn't have all of the readings cataloged electronically, and it's just so rich now that we're able to get into this material in ways that we've never been able to do it before. Yes. And so what was 22 items then turned into hundreds of items. And then back then, it was like I always knew I was going to write another one. And so then it just took several years then for all of that to materialize. And I just feel really grateful. I mean, I love it.
So what did Cayce say about the healing properties of stones?
Well, Edgar Cayce, there's just so much material, obviously, about the importance of different vibrational frequencies and how they're affecting the body. And so in a lot of the life readings, Cayce would actually say, you know, that people needed to have certain stones with them, certain stones around them to affect the actual vibrational frequencies of their body. A lot of the readings that he did in regards to gemstones were mainly related to the past lives and, you know, helping the vibrations by using stones to heal the past life situations, and then some of them were more medicinal in nature. But basically, just like with all the other Cayce remedies, that by using the gems and stones, they can enhance the vibrational frequency, thus creating the frequency and vibration that the person wants to have.
That's really interesting that the readings said that they could help you heal a past life situation. You're a past life regressionist and you deal with gemstones, so that's something that came together for you. That's interesting.
It really has.
Mm-hmm. So can you give us some examples of some of the stones that Cayce talks about?
Yeah, the most prevalent stone in the life readings is the Lapis lazuli.
Yes.
Which is very, very profound. When I'm teaching gem classes, a lot of times I talk about the different frequencies. Like a piece of hematite, for example, which is an iron ore, is a very slow-moving, lower grounding frequency. But when we're talking about frequencies, lapis is like, to me, it's off the chart. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. Cayce actually talked about the fact that it will enhance the person's spirituality, that the frequencies will raise the vibrations up so that people can tune into different levels of consciousness that are not available perhaps to us in the material world. But he also talked about lapis in terms of health, which was really amazing. Before I found some of these readings, I had a client who took a piece of lapis lazuli, and I live in Texas, so people need to understand this, but the man had put the lapis piece in a bandana, that's very Texan, and wore it around his neck. And he just loved this little lapis piece. And he told me about a couple weeks later, he goes, you know what's been interesting ever since I started wearing the lapis in my bandana is that I used to have really bad acid reflux and migraine headaches, and I don't have those anymore. Well, several years later, when I was researching the material, Cayce actually talked about that. He said if people are having migraine headaches, that they need to put a correlation between the stomach and the acid levels in the stomach and migraines. Wow. And that's really supported and enhanced by lapis lazuli. So it's very important. It's mentioned over 60 times in the life readings.
Wow, and I have never read that before. I always thought of the lapis as psychic development.
Right.
But that's really interesting. Cool. So can anybody use any kind of gemstones, or should they avoid some or lean toward others?
I think that to me, gemstones are friends to me, so I feel like some friends come to you for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I think part of what I'm trying to teach people is just, my experience won't necessarily be your experience with different stones. So I like to just suggest that people just experiment with different stones. And when let's say you walk into a store and you see a bunch of stones there, certain ones you're resonating with, and certain ones you maybe don't even notice, and others you're going, whoa, I don't want to be near that. And I think people, people have to follow their intuition. I mean, if we had Edgar Cayce here, which I wish we did, we could certainly consult him and he could recommend some stones for us. But we all have that innate wisdom, and I think it's just a matter of tuning in to what feels right for the individual.
So that's how you would recommend people select stones for themselves? Just
check
them out.
In a class, like we had a class here yesterday, so I pass out stones, and I'm telling people, I know that we like to think, and that's a really good thing in the society normally, but with gem healing, I really don't want people to think. I pass out the stones. I say, now don't look at this, just reach in here and pick out whatever you're attracted to, like on an energetic level, without physically looking at it. And then normally what would happen is people will look at it and go, ew, I don't like that one. Let me go find one that's prettier, and that's where we're getting into like our ego or more our conscious mind. But the soul is going to be attracted energetically to what it really needs. Mm-hmm. And just listening to our own inner voice, we all have it, as long as we just quiet down, and there's no harm that can ever come from gems. So I think people just have to think about what resonates with them and just go with it.
Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of information in your book too about what each gemstone can.
Yes, because I guess I break it down into the bare basics, okay? All anybody wants in this life is love, health, and we could call it money, we could call it security, or whatever you want to call that. So there's three things, and different gemstones basically are resonating at frequencies that begin to, like if I place a gemstone on my body, for example, and I'm vibrating at one frequency, the stone's vibrating at another frequency, I call it getting into energetic rapport. So eventually these two energies will kind of start to work together. Mm-hmm. And then as you're shifting your frequency, then that thing that the gemstone is creating for you begins to be attracted to you. So it's almost like, when The Secret came out and it was really big about the law of attraction and everything. Yes. So it's like the law of attraction. Like I know that I need to enhance my health, for example, or whatever let's say there's certain stones that help circulation, like a bloodstone or something, for example. So I'm going to use that because I want my circulation enhanced. I'm focusing on that I want, and the stone is like a material representation of the thing that I really want to create. Because we can get into that whole thing, right? Is this really even working, or am I just making it up?
Yeah, is it the placebo effect?
Right, but it doesn't matter, it's about setting your intention, and the stones work with you to help manifest those things and bring those things to you. And what's been so interesting is, because I had been studying this kind of on my own in my own little way, but a lot of the Cayce readings are just supporting exactly what I'm saying, but in a different way. Edgar Cayce had so much information about this, and the fact that everything on the material world has minerals in it and elements in it, and then we should become, internally peaceful about being one with those, because all elements are within us, and they just get out of balance. And so the readings, there's a lot of material that's all in the books about just the different materials we can work with to just help bring that balance that everybody's wanting. That that's all we're striving for in life, is just the balance, and it's a juggling act all the time for all of us. And so it just helps to hopefully bring more of that to people.
That's wonderful. Thanks for talking with us today.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me.
Shelley's book, Edgar Cayce's Sacred Stones, is published by A.R.E. Press and available at arecatalog.com.